Hi, my name's Clara, Parrish. I'm a Richmond native. I was born and raised right here. My home was on Summit Street. We were literally in the backyard of EKU. And when I was younger than you all, my mother was an elementary school teacher. Her sister taught at the middle school at Madison Middle. Some of you all may do some of your field experiences there, right over the hill. Another aunt was here in the College of Education at EKU, and my cousin was dean of graduate school. Well, my mother and her sister, every afternoon after they got off work, would come to our house and talk about their school day. Now, they weren't breaking confidentiality, they were sisters, but I heard it so much. And then my aunt here at EKU was very, very driven and an excellent teacher. And there was no way Clara Parrish wanted to do it. I thought, I have heard it my whole life. I'm not going to be a teacher. So I went to Madison Public School, and then I transferred to Model Laboratory School, where you all are doing your observations now. And my senior year, we had gotten a new principal who grounded us to that campus. And I wanted to come on over to EKU and get my English 101 and 102 out of the way. But he would not allow us to leave the site. So I needed a half credit to graduate, which was going to be a full credit, an English credit. So I needed to find some courses to fill in my day over there that year. So I went down to a friend who I knew from the swimming pool and asked her if I could just come help in her classroom for a couple of hours. And that's when I got hooked. It really wasn't from my mother. It was from Mrs. Mills in her second grade classroom at Model Laboratory School. Then the issue came up about attending college. And I thought, gosh, Mother's in the school system, Aunt Frances is in the school system, Aunt Mabel's up here at EKU. It was too much pressure on me. I felt like everyone would know that I was Mabel Jennings' niece. I didn't want to disappoint her. So I decided that I would go away to college, and I went to Western Kentucky University. If I'd gone to UK, I felt like that was still too close to home. So I went to Western and had a great, great experience there. And then they paid for my master's degree, and I had the opportunity to work at their lab school in the mornings and then went to school at night. And then I was here in Richmond, and the superintendent, I had finished my master's, and I was getting ready to play golf, and I ran into the superintendent at that time, and he asked me if I wanted to teach reading at Whitehall Elementary. And I said, no, I'm not ready to come back home. I'm stupid, but I wasn't. So I wanted to see the world, and I took off, and some of you may do that when it comes time to be looking for employment. So I went to Virginia Beach, Virginia, and began my career there as a first grade teacher. Now keep in mind, I'd had a fifth year in college, and I thought I knew everything. I had worked in their lab school in several grades. Mother was a teacher, I had all this additional support. So as a teacher, you will want to be a professional prepared. And I'm sure you're going to learn this while you're in your methods courses here at EKU. I had prepared so well. I knew I had enough for those first graders to do for 2 days instead of 1 day. We had to keep them all day long. The cutoff age then was December 1, so I had a lot of very young 5-year-olds. And like I said, I had everything planned so well, minute by minute. Well, guess what happened to Clara Parrish that first day? Everything I had planned, I covered in about 10 minutes. And that's exactly what I did. Panicked. I thought, what am I going to do with them now? I had 32 first graders. So that day, I struggled through it. I mean, we worked all day on procedure, how you play on the playground. And I had just about gotten through the day, and I think they dismissed at 3:30, and it was around 3. And little children, when they get fatigued, and adults too, we sometimes have a tendency to put our arms folded and put our heads down And those particular children, while they were resting, happened to push their desk up toward Clara Parrish, so they had pinned me against the wall like this. And I'm like, okay, let's stand up. We did some hands-on things, sat back down, and at that point, one child began to whimper for his mother. He wasn't really crying, just kind of whining. I want my mommy. And at that, a domino effect happened, and I had 32 first graders crying on me, wanting their mommy. Guess what Clara Parrish did? I'm miles away from home, even though I'd gone away to college. Anybody want to take a guess? I'm the professional. I'm the one in charge. I've got 32 first graders crying, wanting their mommy. Well, by golly, if I didn't start crying too. And I thought, Parrish, you have got to get a grip. This is a true story. And get a hold of this situation. So finally, I thought, turn it into a teachable moment. So I grabbed the clock, and I took the arm on the clock. I said, now, listen. I said, you are going home in about 10 minutes. Then I grabbed the calendar, and I just started flipping through September, October, November, December. And I said, Miss Parrish is not going home till when Santa Claus comes, so we have got to draw it up and help me get through this. But that is a true story, and I made so many mistakes when I first started teaching, and you will too. That's how you learn. I lost a child my first year. That's what I thought. This was the second semester. I had a new student come to my classroom, and that afternoon I paired him with another child that rode the same bus. And I supervised them out to where the buses were lined up to pick up the children. The mistake I made, I did not make sure that that new student was on the bus with the child I paired him with. So the school gets a call, and that's when your heart sinks to the bottom of your toes, because they're not your children, and you feel so much more responsibility when they're not your own. And it was my first year, and I thought, I'm going to lose my job. They're going to fire me right now. And my principal at the time, Mrs. Ellie Bates, her statue, she stood about that tall. And she ran a tight ship. And I loved it because you knew where you stood with her. She always had your back. If you messed up, she would bring you in her office privately and let you know what you did incorrectly and then help you to correct it. Well, there she was standing in my classroom. I'm having a nervous breakdown. I'll never forget what she said. She said, Clara, children have an uncanny way of finding their way back home. She said, we're going to get in your car and we're going to find this kid. So I get in the car and my leg was shaking so hard I could barely press the accelerator to drive my principal around. And I'm thinking, you're gone. You're going to be fired. And sure enough, when we started driving around the school, there was that child walking across the field toward the subdivision. And we were able to find him and take him home. That particular afternoon, as soon as I got to my apartment, I had to take to my bed. Do you all know what I mean by that? I mean, I was done. So, I'm just saying, the things you have to think, and you will learn this as you go along with your student teaching, and it was just a good lesson for me. I never, if I got a new student, I never let them go out with another child from then on out. I went with them. That same particular year, on December 7th, does anybody know the significance of December 7th? It's Pearl Harbor anniversary. I get a knock on the door. I open it, and there is the teacher for English as a second language with a little boy from Japan, Shinichi Ishigami, who could not speak a word of English. And I had 32 other first graders. So I said to them, English as a second language, some of you all may be interested in going into that. I said, when are you coming to work with him? And she said, Miss Parrish, I'm over my cap. It's all on you. And I said, what? She said, it's all on you. I cannot take another student. So my little boys taught him first every dirty word they thought they knew. So once we got past that, I labeled everything in the classroom, you know, like TV, doors, sink, and I had 2 gifted students that were reading on a 5th grade level, so I had them in a whole independent curriculum. And I would get them to work with him after they finished their classwork. It was amazing. With smaller children, when you immerse them in, it was amazing how well and fluent he was speaking by the end of that semester and that year. It was such a wonderful experience for me. And every Monday morning, he would bring in this origami artwork that is a very highly folded, geometrical type of folding. And they make animals. I don't know if you've ever seen origami or not. And there would be this brown paper sack and these little animals that he had folded and made for me. And with teaching, there are so many rewards. There are so many good things, more so than any bad experience that you're going to have with it. As a profession, teachers are respected right below Supreme Court justices. That just blows my mind. That makes me swell up and it makes me so proud of this particular profession that you all are choosing. We are also viewed as the intellectual elite. Now, I am not the smartest person in the world at all. And to me, that is another honor to be a teacher. How many of you are going to be in primary or elementary? You may not have decided. Okay, with elementary, we have to have knowledge about everything. Social studies, science, English, reading. So I love the fact that in the profession, you have to stay on your toes. You have to learn before you can teach. And I had many students that were smarter than me. And don't ever let that intimidate you. Welcome it. Because I learned from them. I mean, when they would ask me a question that I was clueless about, that's an opportune time to say, why don't you research that and help me learn the answer? So don't worry, because you will. You're going to have students that are much more intelligent, and just welcome it. With teachers, like other professions, doctors, accountants, attorneys, realtors, nurses, we have a code of ethics. The Education Professional Standards Board establishes our code of ethics that we are to adhere to. Well, several years ago, I guess probably 15, 20, when I was still working for Madison County, we would take the code of ethics and have copies made for the building principal and just say, here, go over this. Well, toward the latter part of my career, we had to very carefully go over the code of ethics because of society and procedures that are in place for students and parents and teachers to file a grievance or a harassment when they feel that they've been mistreated. Hopefully, you won't have to even deal with that in your career. And I want to go back to myself just a little bit. When I started in Virginia Beach, I taught there for 6 years, and then when I could no longer really wear a bikini, well, that's not the truth, but that kind of was, it was time for me to think about making a change. I needed to decide if I was going to stay over there and build my career or come back home where my family was located. So I decided to come back here to Richmond. And I taught at Kingston Elementary, which is out in the country, and I loved it. And at that point in time, it was an older school with hardwood floors. I looked out at a field, a pasture. I had wonderful, wonderful students. And I took a pay cut when I moved back to Kentucky, but I wanted to be back home. So I immediately started in another program here at EKU. And it's called a Rank 1. And it's 30 hours of your master's degree. And I had so many methods courses, I thought, I think I'm going to take some administration classes and supervision, never dreaming that I would have ended up doing that in my career. But I completed a degree here at EKU and quickly moved into administration. And I worked for 22 years as the supervisor of instruction here in Madison County. And as a professional, a teacher, you will continue through your whole career to attend workshops and in-service. You're going to read journals. Things change. You're going to stay on top of it, and that's what makes it fun with teaching, because we're constantly changing. We're always trying to find new and better ways to present instruction. So that was part of my job, to plan the continuing education for our teachers. And I loved that particular position too. My favorite was working, teaching, and doing what I'm doing this morning. So after I retired, Dr. Combs asked me if I would be interested in teaching here at EKU. So I teach 103, and that is my favorite class. I love to get you all when you're first beginning with this career. Just the same thing with first grade. I felt it was so important for me to make sure those first graders loved school and that they wanted to come back for second grade. But as a teacher, we did not have, you all will participate in an internship program your first year when you start teaching, and you will be assigned a mentor. When I started teaching, we did not have a program like that set up. But if it had not been for Mrs. Ruth Boyd, who was my first grade level chairman, she nursed me through my entire year. Not only my mother, I was calling her every night, what am I going to do with them tomorrow? What am I going to do with them tomorrow? But you will want to associate yourself with good mentors to help you. And when you work with teachers, you will want to work in a collegial, by that I mean you'll want to respect them as a professional and to be able to get along with them. Now, in every school, there are one or two teachers that you will wonder, when do they work? And unfortunately, those are the type that you do not want to associate with. And one of the best advice that my mother gave me was to not hang out in the teacher's lounge, not to be a lounge lizard. Because usually there was a group of one or two teachers in that teacher's lounge complaining about something. And when you are around negativity, usually that tends to, what does that do when you're around negativity? It has a tendency as human beings to rub off on you. So you will want to associate with positive mentors in your career. And again, I often wondered, when did they teach? There would either be one in the teacher's lounge or one in the principal's office hanging around complaining. So associate yourself with positive people that love coming to work. I loved coming to work. It was just like being on TV every day. It was fun, and I couldn't wait to get to school. And like I shared, even as well as prepared as you try to be, what I loved about teaching, something happened every day where you had to regroup. A kid may come in and puke all over your feet. You've got to regroup and pull it back together. Your audio equipment may not work when you're all prepared and ready for your lecture. You have to pull it back together. And that was what was so fun for me. And I loved the change with it every single day. And with children, just like with adults, if something was bothering Clara Parrish, if a boyfriend, we had an argument, or I just got ditched, or whatever was going on in my personal life, I could not let that bother me once I stepped in that classroom. Because even young children, middle school age or high school, they got their whole set of their own issues. And they are just as large to those children as our problems are to us. And I love that fact of the job. Like I said, whatever was bothering me, back on the back burner, because they were the most important people in my life during that time. And anyway, that was just something that I, like I said, I enjoyed about teaching. With the education, with the Code of Ethics, the Education Professional Standards Board, they issue our license and our certificates. They can also revoke them for inappropriate behavior. With your age group, I Facebook, I text all the time too. I mean, my iPhone is my lifeline. I want you all to be very careful with what you post on Facebook and think. Because it's so easy. Some of the things I see, even from middle-aged people like me, I'm like, I can't believe you put that on Facebook. And school systems and other businesses are looking at social media when they begin to hire. So, you know, I tell my 103 students, I want you all to have a good time. I like to have a good time. But you have to be smart about your behavior because of how well respected we are in society. And you don't want inappropriate behavior to come back and bite you with your certificates, and it could. So you don't want to live your life on eggshells either, but you've got to think and be smart. With teaching, there was a woman who was a very renowned educator. Her name was Madeline Hunter. And I just never was smart enough to design a lesson plan model that you could market and sell all over the country. But Madeline Hunter was. And I had the privilege of seeing her when I was a school administrator. My superintendent sent me to Louisville to listen to Madeline Hunter in her lecture. And your school systems may have bought this particular teaching model. And it was not really anything new. It was give the children a free test to see what they know. If they already know it, move them on to something else. If they don't know it, address it, teach it. Then post-test. That's just good teaching. But anyway, she was able to market it and make a lot of money. And I enjoyed her lecture. And the point that I need to share with you all is that she had 4 beliefs. And I'm going to read them. Her 4 beliefs, the first one, it is the teacher who makes the difference in the classroom. Do you all believe that? I do. By far the most important factor in school learning is the ability of the teacher. I believe that. There is an extensive body of knowledge about teaching that must be known by the teacher. Again, like I stated earlier, we don't know everything, but you are going to review and learn it before you present it to your children. And that makes it fun, keeps you on your toes. The teacher must be a decision maker, able to translate the body of knowledge about teaching into increased student learning. Not everyone's going to be able to learn in the same manner or the same style, and that is our challenge, to make that material interesting to that child or to their learning style. And that's not always easy. You will have to try many, many things for some students for them to get it, to understand. I just want you all to know that nothing will ever, ever replace your presence in the classroom. By far, the most important factor is the teacher issue. I don't care how many iPads, how many new technology gimmicks or techniques come down that pipe, come down the road, nothing will ever replace you. And now, when I am at Walmart or Kroger's and a grown student comes up to me and says, Miss Parrish, you were my favorite teacher, I just go to pieces. My head swells up like a Macy's Day balloon. And I'm thinking, wow, thank you. And it's really amazing. It's never, oh, I remember memorizing multiplication tables. It's never anything like that. They're like, I remember the unit you did on the Kentucky Derby. I remember when we did the play Stone Soup and you made Stone Soup for us. And it just is so rewarding. And I guess about a month ago, I told my 103s I was at home and turned on my computer and there was an email. And I wasn't really familiar with this person's name. But I clicked it on, and this was a former student from 20 years ago that I hadn't even thought about. I mean, I sat at my computer and just bawled. I mean, it was such a rewarding email that she had sent me. And she is now a gifted and talented coordinator in another county. And I had to laugh at the end. She said, I remember you wore pretty lipstick. And I'm like, and she said, we colored every day, but you did it in a meaningful way, which meant I had some type of content included with whatever art that we did. But it is so rewarding when you get those type of intrinsic feedback rewards from students. And it makes you feel like you really, really did make a difference. And, you know, she did not have to sit down and compose that to me, but I did. I cried like a baby about it. It just made me feel so, so very good. Any questions so far? Okay, with professionals, we need to walk the walk by our behavior and by our appearance. Now, when I taught young children, I could not wear my Sunday best to school, but I wanted to look neat and put together. And believe it or not, Sperry topsiders were still in style back then. But I wanted to at least have a neat appearance if I had on khakis, topsiders, a jacket. Our profession has gotten lax in our dress code. And it happened about 20 years ago. Maybe Walmart came out with these, and you may remember this, ladies, these windbreaker outfits. They were matching. They were kind of nylon. And they were pull-up pants and a jacket. Great for walking, great for a physical education teacher, not so great for a classroom teacher. But schools allow them to wear those. And not all of us can get by wearing sweatpants. Then schools sometimes celebrate a dress-down Friday day. I'm okay with that. But you want to wear jeans that are different than holy jeans. If they have that, you want to wear a pair. You want to talk about dress jeans. Does Clara Parrish wear jeans? Yes. I've got summer jeans, winter jeans. I've got crop pant jeans. I've got jean shorts. Yes, I've got one pair that's got so many holes in it from washing them. I cannot bear to throw them away because they feel like a diaper. But am I going to wear them to come teach here at EKU? No. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on professional dress to look neat and put together. When I first began teaching, I was broke. And I would go to Kmart and buy 4 dresses and a pair of slacks and just wash them, press them, and wear them, you know, the whole week. And then the same thing the next week. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, but when you all begin your field experience out in schools, it is like a job interview every day. And those teachers and administrators will be checking you out. We've had 203 students that they have said to them, we can't wait for you to complete the program at Eastern. We want to hire you. So when you start going out in the field, think smart, think professionally, look the look, walk the walk. And again, I'm not talking over the top, ladies. I shop at TJ Maxx too. You just want to look like a professional. And many of you are not that much older than your students. Is anyone going into the secondary, into high school? So you have to think, if you look professional, you gain respect immediately from those students. And I tell the gentlemen in my class, I said, you know, you may want to start out wearing an Oxford shirt and a tie, just to separate you from those students. But just keep that in mind. Again, you don't want to spend a lot of money on clothes. And I would tell the 103s before we did an observation, I said, especially the gentlemen, I said, if y'all don't have a pair of khakis or black slacks, come see me. Because I would have given them money to have gone to Goodwill to have gotten a pair. But you want to present yourself, especially where you're being viewed, in a professional way. And again, I think all of you would know how to do that, what's appropriate and inappropriate dress. About 15 years ago, there was a very popular, we call them power suits. And they were blazers, but then, and I didn't have the legs, ladies, to wear this, but the skirt was short and hit about mid-thigh, and then the blazer, the jacket, met the skirt, you know. Well, the superintendent at that time had gotten a call from one of the middle schools that there was a substitute teacher out there, and the middle school boys, their hormones raging, that they were going berserk. And he said, Clara, I want you to go out there and check it out, because I've hired all the substitute teachers. So I went out there, and here was this beautiful young lady in one of these suits, and heels, which would be hard. I think high heels would be hard on your feet to teach. And I felt like an idiot because first of all, what she had on was in style, but it was just not appropriate for that age. So I had to speak to her privately, and I remember I told her, I said, "You look beautiful. I wish I could wear a suit like that, and I can't." I said, "But with this particular age group, and where they are starting puberty and their hormones and their reserve, you know, you need to come dressed more appropriately." And then you will have teachers that may be teaching right beside you that look like bombs. And did you ever have any teachers like that, that you could tell maybe had not even combed their hair and just showed up? I hope you didn't, because that tells me they don't really want to be there. And children notice everything about you. I mean, if you've got any type of piercings, you're checking it out. Tattoos, I know they're popular now. I'm real curious about them. When I was growing up, people that sported tattoos were not the coolest kids. But now I know it's very, very popular. But I would cover them up because the students are going to be checking you out. When I first started teaching 103, it was a fall, we were doing our first observation, and we had talked about appropriate dress, that my students came into model looking so sharp. I mean, the girls and the gentlemen. And one young girl came up to me and she said, "Miss Parrish, I cannot get my dress zipped." And she had on a really cute dress, ladies, and a cardigan sweater. I said, "Well, I'll zip it before you turn around." Well, she had a tattoo that went from shoulder blade to shoulder blade, and I got mesmerized looking at it. And I said to her, "That is the coolest tattoo I've ever seen." I said, "But I'm so glad that you covered it up to date zip." And then with the sweater, it was covered. But children check you out. I had a teacher that needed their hair colored. And the appointment, she was a little behind. So the growth on her braid was about an inch on her forehead. And she had her students in a reading group. And one of her students said, "Mrs. Jones, I really like your headband you're wearing today." So that's a true story too. It was not me. But they check out everything. So, you know, be professional when you go into schools. Walk the walk, and it will help you gain respect immediately from those teachers and from your students. Any questions? Let me review real quickly before we end. Teachers are highly respected by society. We are an intelligent group. We are degreed. We rank right below Supreme Court justices. That's a lot of pressure. I mean, they rule our land. But that is how respected the general public views this profession. 80% of teachers have voluntary advanced degrees. Now, granted, there's a monetary that helps you, that makes you or wants you. It will help encourage you to get an advanced degree because you are getting a step on your salary. But still, that takes motivation, and you're paying for graduate level courses. But most, like I said, 80% have voluntary advanced degrees. In Kentucky, you are required to obtain a master's degree. So again, we are the intellectual elite, or considered the intellectual elite in America. Then that makes me want to smile because I know I'm not the smartest person. Again, Madeline Hunter, nothing will ever replace you in that classroom. No matter how many audio aids we have, technology that's changing every day, your smart boards, nothing will ever replace you and the influence you have on these children. And I welcome you to this profession. It's been so good to me, and I have loved it. Any questions about today?